In this unit, we've learned a lot about Chinese philosophy. Some of our students might come up with such questions. Why do we still have to learn something thousands of years ago? Won't it be a little bit outdated? What's the practical significance of learning this? In this section, we will have a further discussion over these questions.
Before we start, there is always this question haunting me. We usually use pinyin or its variation to refer to these masters in English, like Laozi, Mozi, Sunzi, Hanfeizi, Zhuangzi. But for Kongzi and Mengzi, we have particular English names for them. Confucius and Mencius, especially for Confucius, which sounds a little bit like the word confuse. To be honest, the first time I learned about this, I was thinking, what does he have to be confused about? He's master, he should have known everything.
He's not confused. He's supposed to confuse everyone. Just kidding. As the earliest Chinese sages, known by Westerners, their names were first translated into Latin by missionaries and passed on ever since. Perhaps it is because these names sound more like the ancient Greek philosophers like Heraclitus, Pythagoras, Sophocles, that they are more easily accepted and remembered by Westerners. This discussion over names reminds me of the arguments between names and actualities in ancient Chinese philosophy.
Yeah, as we've learned, Tao Te Ching starts with this statement: the Tao that can be comprised in words is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the abiding name. The unnameable is the beginning of heaven and earth. The nameable is the mother of all things.
In the Taoist system, there is this distinction between Yuming and Wuming. All things that lie within shapes and features can be named. They are nameable. Like we name this as desk, and we call the sage Kongzi or Confucius. When we talk about them, we have these names to use. But in contrast, Laozi wants to speak about the unnameable, what lies beyond shapes and features. This is the concept of Tao, or the way of the world. It is hard to name it as it is shapeless. It is nowhere, and it is everywhere. It is the beginning of all things.
Everyone must have heard about this. From Tao, there comes one. From one, there comes two. From two, there comes three. From three, there comes all things. We can interpret it this way. All things in this world originate from this single one being, so that everything is interrelated by a common way of life, a fundamental law that governs the world.
I think, to some extent, knowing this helps us treat life with a more peaceful mentality, especially in a modern world abundant in materials and that sees constant changes. But we can't have everything we desire. Once we fail to fulfill our needs, we could easily get anxious, frustrated, and unhappy. But if we could see through names and games to get at the nature of things, or so-called Tao, we might be happier.
That could well explain the motivations behind this popular practice of dancery or 断舍离 these days. More and more people start to cut off impulsive purchase, throw away useless things, and abstain from unnecessary desires.
Laozi taught us this idea of pu, or simplicity, 2,000 years ago. That is, by detaching ourselves from the external materials and living a life as simple as possible, we could pursue a kind of absolute happiness.
That's quite inspiring. We don't want to be obsessive about fame and fortune, but could it be possible that we say, alright, since everything is basically the same, what's the point of working hard?
That goes to another extreme. We all know Taoism advocates the idea of Wu Wei, which can be literally translated as having no action or non-action. But this is not saying that we don't need to do anything. It is actually used to warn against overdoing. That is, not doing too much, otherwise it would become harmful rather than good.
That reminds me of a great many Chinese idioms like 物极必反. Overdoing runs the risk of getting the opposite of what one wants. 过犹不及, going too far is as bad as not going far enough. 画蛇添足, drawing a snake and adding feet to it to spoil things by going to extremes. They all tell that we should be careful to avoid the excessive, the extravagant, the extreme, since these are all the sage discards.
In another word, we need to know where the boundary is. Do less, but in a more effective way. It's not that we pay no efforts to our work or study. It is that we know how to properly handle the work or study. Like if we eat too much, the supposedly enjoyable experience could be painful. Or sometimes, even if we try our best, we still fail to achieve what we want. The important thing is to eat the right amount of food or find the key of work.
This also serves as the principal argument for the sort of the golden mean that Confucianists favor.
Speaking of this, there is a common myth that we need to dispel about the idea of zhong. People often mistakenly understand it as simply doing things no more than halfway. This is quite wrong. The real meaning of zhong is neither too much nor too little.
That could apply to a buzzword we often see today, emotion management. It reminds us of properly controlling our emotion, neither to let too much of our emotion come forth, nor keep too much emotion to ourselves. Road rage and depression would be two such cases of failure to seek the golden mean of emotion.
It also goes back to our desires. Sometimes we want something so badly, or we're too eager to achieve something, so that we tend to overexert ourselves, which would totally backfire. But this does not mean that we need to have no desires at all. No desires, no motivations, then we could lose the purpose of our life. All in all, it is critical for us to find this medium point, either for the satisfaction of our desires or the expression of our emotions.
Exactly. The thought of preventing extremes could also be traced back to the general theory that reversing the movement of Tao. It is to keep us alert that going to one extreme often brings in the reversal to the other extreme.
This is especially insightful for our life, as we are often taught to remain cautious even in time of prosperity and hopeful even in time of extreme danger. Such mindset allows us to stand firm in woe and woe. When everything's going alright, we know we shouldn't let our guard down. On the other hand, if we are faced with difficult situations, it also gives us a sort of psychological weapon to persist and to have the faith that the dawn will soon come.
It is illuminating also in the sense that it teaches us to view things from different perspectives or even from reverse sides. This might offer a set of new thoughts or help adjust attitudes when we get stuck in troubles. As Chinese people often say, it is upon calamity that blessing leans, upon blessing that calamity rests.
That brings me to a movie I recently watched called Ready Player One. In the movie, the people have to pass 3 challenge tests in a virtual game to win the grand prize. In the first racing test, which is so hard that no one in 5 years ever manages to pass, the protagonist, Possible, finally cracks the clue. Instead of dashing forward aimlessly, he goes backward into a hidden track, which helps him detour all the blocks to the finishing line. It's really interesting to see a Hollywood movie of this age perfectly consistent with the Chinese philosophical ideology 2,000 years ago.
Alright, frankly speaking, I didn't expect that we would have so much to say on this daunting topic, Chinese philosophy. But once we give it a second thought, we find that it is actually everywhere in our life. And I have no doubts that it will continue to guide us for many years to come. So, what could you learn from Chinese philosophy? What are some of the life lessons you draw? You're welcome to share your views in our online discussion. See you next time!